done the 1 p.m. live stream and it was a blast, but now I'm doing the 1 a.m. live stream just to see if we're gonna have anybody joining us 1 a.m. If any night owls out there like me, here to chat once again about Freemasonry. I'm gonna ask the same questions as before. We're going to talk about Freemasonry and the Enlightenment, which is something I really wanted to make sure to discuss. So please jump in the chat, say hello, let me know how it's going. If, like I said, you are a night owl like me, I'd love to talk to you some more about how it's going and anything you want to chat about, positive, negative, or neutral, please let me know. It was a great chat this morning. I had an absolute blast talking to people. I had a ton of people show up. It was a lot of fun. But now, like I said, we were on the afternoon chat. So, or I guess first thing in the morning chat. So let's give it a bit of time. Let's see who joins and anything you want to talk about. Positive, negative, or neutral, I would love to hear it. Let's, one more time, we'll ask this poll question. Who is your favorite Enlightenment thinker? Freemason. Voltaire. Ben Franklin. I suppose I should say like brother. Mozart. Diderot. All right, let's see what you guys say. Let's give it a bit of time. And like I said, hit the like chat. Ron Weasley says, hey, what's up? Isn't that the dude from Ron Weasley? That was the name from Harry Potter, right? Which I'm sure you get sick of. Wow. Chris Castro, how about trans Masons? LW Fitness, what's your favorite kind of metaphysical ambiguous yet emotionally pungent elbow-shaped flavor of leftward existential waffle scream that occurs only during the 30 clips of the non-linear day? There's a lot of big words in there, LW Fitness. I hope you hit the like and subscribe button. Vanilla ice cream is my favorite flavor of ice cream because I take it that's what you mean by that, is the best I can do. Chris Castro, everybody has different views, and I speak as a Mason exclusively for myself. I can tell you what my opinion is, which is I believe if you are a trans man, so you are, born biologically female but identify as a man, you should be admitted into a Masonic lodge. And if it's the opposite, you should be admitted into the Order of Women Freemasons, which is the same policy as exists in the United Grand Lodge of England. I actually talked about that because I did an interview with somebody about Freemasonry and, Pride Month, because it's Pride Month here. And that is the Grand Lodge of England's policy. Other jurisdictions have different policies. Texas has a different one. Tennessee has a different one. So it goes back to this idea of jurisdictional independence, and each lodge has its own policies. But in my opinion, if you identify as a man, then that is good enough for me. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing well, Messi fan. Looks like you are a night owl just like me. I hope you're doing well, though. I hope that everybody joining us for the first time would be so kind as to hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know how it's going, if there's anything that you want to chat about when it comes to Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have, positive, negative, or neutral, I would love to hear them. I choose humanity, we want peace. Thank you, Messi fan. Yes, everybody subscribe and like. Listen to Messi. Messi is a smart person, knows what they are talking about. Caitlin says hello. Hello, Caitlin. I hope you're doing well. I'm not sure if You are back. Welcome back, Blue. I hope you're doing well. Hit that like button. Everybody just joining us for the first time, hit that like button. Like I said, I get a lot of people showing up at, these late night streams, which is a lot of fun. I still appreciate you joining though, Messi. Truly appreciated. I hope you're doing well, and thank you for joining. This morning, or this afternoon at 1 p.m., I talked about Freemasonry and the Enlightenment, which I'll discuss again. Cooper, lapis lazuli. Did you win against the Shriners? That's the ultimate question. Did you win or did you lose? And by the way, copper lapis, I hope you'll hit the like button and subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing and if there's any question about Freemasonry. Usually the first hour I spend just chatting, and the second hour I spend with specific topics, such as, in this case, Freemasonry and the Enlightenment. Thank you, Ron. I truly appreciate the like. We had a great stream this afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern, but now it's 1 a.m. Eastern. Thought it might be worth trying it again just to see if there might be anybody else who I missed. 8 votes. Favorite Enlightenment Freemason. Voltaire has 2 votes. Ben Franklin has 2 votes. Mozart has 3 votes. Diderot has 1 vote. $12-hour difference, which is awesome, by the way. Thank you so much for being here. Blue, let me know if you picked one of these Enlightenment Freemasons, and if you did, which one it was, and why you might have picked that one. We've had 9 votes, which is awesome. Ten votes. Voltaire, Ben Franklin, Mozart all have 3. Poor Diderot just has 1. Well, I was off for a while, MLW. I just came back on now because, I wanted to try it again and see if there's a new audience out that might want to talk to me at 1 in the morning. Thank you. What are you having for dinner, Ron? Let me know. Although I guess I might get hungry. It might make everybody hungry. But nonetheless, let me know what you're having for dinner. The typical Masonic meal, in case anybody's curious, is pancake breakfasts. So there's always that. But I'm glad you're having dinner right now. We're going to, as always, the first hour when I do this, I really just hang out, wait for people to join, ask questions about Freemasonry, any thoughts they have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral. And then the second hour is when I talk about specific topics, in this case, Freemasonry and the Enlightenment, which was a very, Freemasonry and the Enlightenment were very connected. Many, famous Enlightenment or influential Enlightenment figures were themselves Freemasons, right? That includes, for example, Voltaire, all the 4 listed there, Voltaire, Ben Franklin, Mozart, and Diderot were all themselves Freemasons. I like pizza. There's no such thing as bad pizza, but I prefer cheese pizza. Actually, no, pepperoni pizza. Yeah, I like pepperoni. I don't know why I said cheese. But any pizza is good pizza, to be honest. There's no such thing as a bad pizza. Anybody who said there's such a thing as a bad pizza, you are crazy. Welcome. If you're just joining us, thank you for being here. Please take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know how it's going. If there's anything you want to talk about in terms of Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. Or even just let me know what you're doing staying up so late. Please continue. Well, I mean, my personal favorite Enlightenment figure, and not just Enlightenment Mason, but just Enlightenment figure altogether, would be Voltaire. But I also just like the Enlightenment as a general idea, and I think ideas about Enlightenment and ideas about Freemasonry go hand in hand. I don't think you can be a Freemason if you're anti-democratic, and the Enlightenment also championed ideas of democracy. Stephen Skiba, what you're referring to would be called a cable tow. Why it is there, I can't tell you. You'd have to join. But it imparts a very valuable lesson, I can tell you that. AGC, you may continue. Thank you, AGC. By the way, Stephen, I hope that you'll hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know how it's going, and if there's anything in particular when it comes to Freemasonry you want to talk about. Sorry I couldn't provide you with the best answer, but I do want to keep some things secret. What I will say is the reason why I keep it a secret is because maintaining the secrecy ensures that there's a strong bond between our Masonic brothers, so, which I think is very, very, very important. Welcome. If you're just joining us, thank you so much for being here. Please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button. I hope that you are doing well. Let's see what the votes are. We got, and Ryan is here, by the way. Welcome, Ryan. We got Mozart is in the lead. It's funny, this morning when we did this stream, or again this afternoon when we did this stream, it was actually Ben Franklin ran away with it in terms of the lead. Now we got Mozart in the lead, but that is still pretty cool. So thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. I hope everybody is doing well. Please take a moment and hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know how it's going and if there's anything you want to chat about when it comes to Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have, comments, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. And as always, the first hour is just waiting for see the audience. The second hour is specific topic. Stephen, when you swear the oath, there's no going back. I'm not sure what you mean by that. No going back from what to what? Like, you can leave Freemasonry. Many people choose to leave Freemasonry. They either take a demit or they just stop paying their dues. One of the biggest challenges we have right now in Freemasonry is the number of people who are not maintaining membership or losing members. So, I mean, yeah, there's nothing in the oath that precludes you from leaving Freemasonry if you so desire, and many do for any number of reasons. Sometimes they just get too busy with work and family and they can't dedicate their time to the lodge. Sometimes they find it's not for them over time, or they change. Sometimes they move to a different city and they can't stick around. So, I'm not sure necessarily what that means by there's no going back. Like a Chuck Dunning would argue, it's like an initiatic experience, and when you take an initiation or an oath, there's something about you that changes, but that's not been my experience. And certainly, practically speaking, there's nothing stopping you, even after taking your oath, from choosing to demit and leave Freemasonry. And that does actually happen quite often. No, I mean, that might be a biker gang thing, but that's not a Masonic thing. Masons are, you're free to come and go. You're an adult and you can kind of do what you want. So no, not once in, always in. I guess some would argue once you're a Mason, you're always a brother. So, for example, if a Mason joins and then leaves and ends up in the hospital and needs assistance financially, the lodge may still choose to support him because they would still consider him a brother, even though he hasn't been a member or paid dues for a while. That is certainly very possible. Well, Shriners are not the upper echelon of Freemasonry. There is no real upper echelon of Freemasonry. Shriners are a concordant body of Freemasonry, so it's a different Masonic body. Mystical, first, don't do that till you hit the like and subscribe button. Then do that. But then by all means, go do that. So, you know, by all means. But I hope everybody is doing well. So there are what is called concordant bodies, Stephen, in Freemasonry. Concordant bodies are ways you can kind of learn more about Freemasonry and philosophical ideas of it, that type of thing. So the upper echelon, the highest you can be in Freemasonry is the third degree, or Master Mason. And maybe technically you could argue Worshipful Master. Anything beyond that is not something which you can, anything beyond that, it's a specialization, it's something extra to do, but it doesn't put you in a higher echelon than a Master Mason. So the first hour, Ron, I'm just taking questions from the chat. So anybody who puts anything in the chat, I see it and I try to respond to it as best as I can. I'm sure it can be a little bit confusing for people listening, but I like to interact with the audience, especially the first hour. And then the second hour is when I switch more to specific topics. So thank you, everybody who has joined so far. I truly appreciate it. I hope I'm answering your questions well. Yes, it is Mystical 905. I mean, obviously, National Treasure was a highly dramatized version of Freemasonry, highly dramatized, but it is it is based on Freemasons. We're much more boring, though, than what you see in National Treasure. Having said that, I do really love National Treasure. I think it's a very, really wonderful, really fun work. Actually, there was a paper written about Freemasonry and the Enlightenment, and it starts, for modern audiences, National Treasure, the 2004 film starring Nicolas Cage, was their first encounter with the historically secretive group known as Freemasons. Admittedly, it nurtured my own desire to learn more about history in addition to kickstarting a national wave of interest in this fraternal order. Am I familiar with the OTO? I'm familiar with them, but I don't know a ton about them. To most people with a trivial interest in the topic, the Masons are a mysterious coalition of past historical figures who conspired together to weave secret symbols into tokens of an early American identity. But this brotherhood did far more than put a pyramid on the back of our currency or commission an obelisk to be built in our nation's capital. They were and continue to be a huge multinational organization that today boasts over 5 million members worldwide. Probably a little bit high, to be honest. The heyday of Masonry began, the golden age of the craft coincided almost directly with the age of Enlightenment. This is no coincidence. Both speculative Freemasonry and the Enlightenment shared a great many things. Ideals such as rationalism, democracy, and the pursuit of knowledge were at the core of both movements, and individuals such as Benjamin Franklin, Voltaire, Diderot, and Mozart were not only among the most prominent Enlighteners, but filled the ranks of Masonic lodges in Europe and America. So just give you a brief introduction. 12 votes. Voltaire has 3, Ben Franklin has 3, Mozart has 3. Voltaire has 3, Ben Franklin has 3, Mozart has 4, Diderot has 2 in terms of votes. But I hope I've been able to answer some questions. We are, I'm an active Freemason. I'm sometimes too active. I like to get more sleep. But yes, we are active. I mean, that's a weird way to put it. We don't recruit membership. We don't recruit members. Rather, the old saying is to be one, ask one. So if you're interested in being a Freemason, then it's kind of expected that you will, of your own free will and accord, try to seek out a lodge and learn more about it. Or maybe you see me talking, or you see a Masonic temple and you find it interesting, and you proceed from there. Or you have family. My goal is always just to explain what it is I love about Freemasonry, why I love it, and why I think it's important. It has not, I mean, the numbers are dropping, mystical. The numbers are dropping fairly substantially, fairly frequently, but it's not closed down. Um, so, it does happen that people invite, as again, as a general rule, it's not preferred. The preference is people come of their own interest. But I mean, you don't have to join. I'm just happy you're here hanging out with me tonight. So I do very, very much appreciate it. And thank you, everybody who has joined so far. I truly do appreciate it. You're going to have to ask the Masons. There's 850,000 of them, and they're all going to have a slightly different answer to that question. What is the purpose of Freemasonry today in 2025? I can tell you, I believe the purpose of Freemasonry is to fight for a better world through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. That is my opinion as the purpose of Freemasonry. You'll often hear the slogan, the purpose of Freemasonry is to make good men better. But I'm not a huge fan of that as a quote because I think that's too outward looking. I think the true purpose of, or I think that's too inward looking. I think the true purpose of Freemasonry is to look outward and to try to make the world a better place. Again, through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. My name is Cameron, Ron, so thank you for being here. I truly appreciate it. They shouldn't. If a brother was involved in some shady stuff, the Masons should not help protect them. One of the things we are taught as Masons is if somebody is engaged in any type of crimes or criminal activities, offenses against God or man, we are not to keep those secret. Now, whether Masons will do it or not is a different story. I mean, how many people ignore the bad actions of their neighbors or their friends or their whatever? But, that is human nature to kind of ignore the bad actions of friends, and then that happens again. It doesn't have to happen in Masonic lodges, it can happen anywhere. How many people know somebody who's up to some shady stuff but choose to ignore it, right? But we as Freemasons are taught that we are not to do that, and certainly if a Mason came to me and said, you need to help me hide this body of this person I just murdered, I would not be cool with doing that. I would probably inform the police. But if he's murdering people, he's not a good Mason anyways, and not complying with what it means to be a good Mason, in my opinion. The secret thing, I mean, here's the way I always describe it, Stephen, and let me know if this makes sense to you. It is a social club, yeah. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, it's dressed up in a lot of ceremony and ritual as ways to build bonds of fraternal friendship, but it's not in and of itself. Um, it's not in and of itself um, a it's just a social club. Yeah, like I said, it has the trappings of ritual, but it's not a religion. It has the trappings of secrecy, but it's not a secret society. It's a social club with a lot of bells and whistles attached to it. So, Stephen, going back to what you said, when it comes to the idea of secrecy, let's imagine you have a family recipe that your, grandparents gave to your parents, gave to you. You're not going to share that on the internet. You're going to keep that a secret. The reason you keep that a secret is not because the family recipe is some type of evil, whatever it is, or has some type of nefarious purpose. It's because as a family recipe, maintaining it within the family helps to strengthen the bonds you have between the past and future generations of the family. In the same way, when it comes to Freemasonry, right, we have some trappings, we have like rings and jewels, but that stuff's not matter. Really, what we have to pass down to future generations is our ritual, right? And if I'm sharing the ritual on the internet with everybody, then it doesn't mean as much when I share it with a brother when he's initiated. And the bonds we form are less strong. I mean, I can go anywhere in the world, I can see another Mason, and I can have something in connection to him, something in common with him. I can understand something about him. Because even though he won't have gone through the exact same ritual as I have, he'll have gone through something similar. Because Masonry is a little bit different everywhere. And so that's why we maintain the secrecy of the ritual, because it strengthens the bonds between the past and future generations of Masons. It strengthens the bonds between me and my grandparents who went through it before I was born, you know? And also, the reason we keep the membership secret is because it's just a polite thing to do. I wouldn't want somebody going around telling people like, oh, that Cameron, he's this, he's, you know, it's up to me to say. It's my responsibility to tell people whether I am or not, whether I'm comfortable or not. I shouldn't put that on other people. Bryce Abernathy, welcome, Bryce. I hope that you have good opinions of me. If you do not, please hit the like and subscribe button anyways. Michael. Well, there you go, Mickey. I am a current master and a past master. I'm a current master of Border Cities Lodge 554 and past master of 2 other lodges. Well, it's a fraternal order, Stephen, but I am going to be clear. There is also the Order of Women Freemasons, Rainbow, and Eastern Star, which are all groups for women and young girls. So keep that in mind. Well, mystical, a lot of people are taught that or learn that or believe that, but it is not the case. So it is, yeah, it is simply not the case that is what we, you know, our purpose for existing is to try to make the world better through application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. The way we do that is through various means of promoting brotherhood, basically promoting Enlightenment values, democracy, rationalism. But we don't do that by, you know, running elections. We do that by trying to live our own lives in a manner consistent with those values and consistent in a way that will make the world a better place. So let me know, Mystical, if I answered your questions well. Todd Long, welcome. I think you're new to the stream. I hope you like my answers to my questions. I hope you'll hit the like button. I hope you hit the subscribe button. Where are those located? Normal 673, Bloomington 43. And by the way, my condolences to you as being junior warden. That's a very tough job. So let me know where those are located, and also let me know if you'll hit the like and subscribe button, and if you voted on our favorite Enlightenment Freemason. Vera Walker. Well, Vera, if you want to let me know why it is I might be misled, I'd appreciate it. I love Illinois. I absolutely love Illinois. I've been to Illinois so many times, specifically Chicago and Glenview, Illinois, north of Chicago. I got a lot of good Masonic brothers there, a lot of interviews and podcasts about that. So yeah, it's a great state. Vera, thank you again. Please let me know if you want why you think I'm misled, and maybe I can tell you why I disagree potentially. But I do appreciate you being here very much, and Mystical, I do appreciate you being here as well. Thanks for the props. I mean, it's definitely more boring to know the truth, that we're not out there, you know, running elections and whatever else it is. It's definitely more boring. But, you know, that's what makes it fun. As well as the boring, like I personally am the type of guy who I enjoy the movies where Masons are portrayed as like conspiracy theorists. Like From Hell is one of my favorite movies, starring Johnny Depp. It's so much fun in it. Spoilers in it. You know, the Freemason, Jack Ripper's a Freemason. I love that stuff. It's fun. It's interesting, but it doesn't actually reflect what happens in Freemasonry. What happens in Freemasonry is much more boring, but also much more meaningful. Raina, thank you, Raina, for being here. Carmine, hello. Please explain briefly why you waste your life with Freemasonry. Rania, that's quite the way to start, but nonetheless, I'm happy you're here. I love there's a lot of things I don't like about Freemasonry, but I choose to engage with Freemasonry and make Freemasonry my life because Freemasonry is a way to fight for a better world through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. And I've seen Freemasonry help many people provide a social safety net and a social safety net to catch people when they are falling either financially or otherwise. And I've seen it make a real difference in people's lives. So it's a really important thing, in my opinion. Business meetings are a blast. I mean, they can be. They can also be dreadfully boring. It just depends. I heard Mystical, they identified Jack the Ripper. I've not looked into it, but I heard. Carmine, I know about it and I never discussed it out of respect. We appreciate that, but now's your chance. If you have any questions, please let me know. I've been a Freemason since 2007. I don't know everything about Freemasonry, but I can at least give you my 20-year experience. Stephen, I 100% agree with it. One of the things Freemasonry teaches you is to compromise. Compromise with men of different religious faiths, different political beliefs, different life experiences, which is an absolutely beautiful thing. Vera, I'm incredibly sorry that happened to you. I wish it didn't happen to you, whether your great uncle was a Mason or not. I just wish it didn't happen to you. Unfortunately, Freemasons are human beings. Sometimes I wish we weren't, and part of that means that Freemasons oftentimes do very bad things. Just like members of a church can do really bad things, just like anybody else, right? It's unfortunate that anybody would do that, and I'm incredibly sorry that happened. I'm sorry, first and foremost, that happened to you. Secondly, I'm sorry that it caused you to have a negative view of Freemasonry. Ultimately, though, he was not someone who was reflective of what Freemasonry is. He was just a bad person who made it into Freemasonry. And I wish I could tell you that there's no other bad people who are Freemasons, but unfortunately, Masons aren't human. We can't look into the soul of people, and sometimes people join who turn out to be not good people, and that's just life. That's no different than anywhere else. No different than churches, no different than professions, sports teams. But I am incredibly sorry that happened to you, Vera, and I can't imagine what that would have been like. I am a member of Scottish Rite, 18th degree. I didn't go all the way through here in Canada. You have your Scottish Rite degrees go through different weekends. So you got Lodge of Perfection first, then a couple months later you go through Scottish Rite. You go through Rose Croix, and then you go up from there. I cannot promise you that, Mystical. You're going to be incredibly disappointed. You're going to be incredibly disappointed. What I can promise you is you will eat a lot of pizza and a lot of pancake breakfasts. I hope that helps you. Carmine Murray, perfect example. Tell me, what is different about Freemasonry, and thank you. What is different about Freemasonry? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. Like, do you mean different as compared to other groups? I can tell you what I loved about Freemasonry. I loved Freemasonry, first of all, because it welcomes men, and there's also women's groups for like women exclusive, Order of Women Freemasons, for example. But the fraternal side of it, I loved it because it welcomed men of different political and different religious beliefs and did not exclude anybody for those reasons, which I thought was really a good thing. And also you saw, I've seen, Jewish Masons and Muslim Masons and Christian Masons all sitting together. And I just think, especially in 2025, that stuff is beautiful. I love the ritual aspect of it. I think the ritual provides a type of mindfulness almost where you're sitting down in lodge, you're starting your work, you have this ritual. And I love the fact that it was a civic culture. And I genuinely believe that civic culture, civic society is necessary for, a fight against and things like fascism, tyranny, all those things, And I think what Freemasonry does is by creating a space for Enlightenment values, democracy. Freemason is a democratic organization. Reason, kindness, benevolence, charity. I think it helps to create a better world. Um, and there's other ways to do it. Like Veer, I don't want to imply that Freemasonry is the one way. I think it's about what you care about. Like there are people who join football teams, and if you as a football player join a football team and decide you're going to be the best player on the team, you're going to help all your teammates out both on the field and off the field. You're going to practice hard. You're going to be there for them. You are also making the world a better place. One of my favorite quotes. This is a Jewish quote, but I love it. A well-built house is a prayer. Doing something well is a prayer to God, and whether what you're doing well is Masonic ritual or building something out of stone, either way, it's a type of prayer that brings something beautiful into the world. How do Freemasons feel about? I think that it's a Jewish proverb. I was told it was, anyways. How do people Zerg? Well, when you start your phrase with the term, or you start your question with the term bullshit, maybe you are a bit too aggressive. Freemasons welcomes men, and again, there's the women's group, but welcomes men of any faith, including Christianity, and that can include Protestant, Catholic, non-denominational. I understand Catholics have a prohibition against their members joining Freemasonry. Freemasonry has no prohibition in return. So if you're a Catholic and you want to join Freemasonry, and I know many Catholics who join Freemasonry, right? You're going to be welcome because you believe in a supreme being. So Freemasonry does not elevate one religious belief over the other. So it respects religious beliefs, whether it be Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hindu, Wiccan, etc., etc. Well, if that's the case, it's not done a good job with me because I'm not prepared to meet intergalactic aliens. If I met one, I would probably poop in my pants. I'm a diehard Republican, voted for Trump 3 times. It does not, but you would not be able to say that you're a diehard Republican in a tiled lodge meeting. So when the lodge opens, you are not allowed to discuss religion or politics. You can discuss it after or before, but not during lodge. During lodge is a time when no politics or religion can be discussed in lodge. I do understand the connection. It's not what people think it is. It's much less interesting than what people think it was. The connection. So the Illuminati was started by an Adam Winehouse. I forget the name of it now. I always get his name messed up. Adam something or other. In 1888. He was a Mason and he did not like Freemasonry. He grew disillusioned by it. He thought A, it was too expensive and it wasn't mystical enough. So he started the Illuminati. He stole a lot of our rituals and ate them and kind of started his own club. Only it didn't really go well because everybody just viewed it as bargain store Freemasonry, which it kind of was. So he kind of died out after 10 years. And every now and then it comes back, but they come back for a week, somebody tries it, somebody starts in their garage, like Cameron's Illuminati group, but it never goes anywhere. Well, I mean, the Illuminati wanted Freemasonry to be more mystical, right? And it wasn't. So he went somewhere else, right? We weren't mystical for him. He wanted rituals that were more mystical and et cetera, et cetera. That's why he left Freemasonry and started the Illuminati. And one of the famous examples of a very anti-mystical Freemason was Harry Houdini, who hated mysticism, hated psychics. That's not to say there aren't some Freemasons who have different views, like famously, Arthur Conan Doyle, the author who wrote Sherlock Holmes, and Harry Houdini were Masonic brothers. They were friends, but they had a big falling out because Sir Arthur Conan Doyle believed in psychics and fairies in the woods, like Tinkerbells and stuff like that, and Harry Houdini hated that stuff. So the Masons have many different beliefs, and that's okay so long as we all respect each other at the end of the day. I would say, I mean, so I'm Canadian mystical, so Republican, Democrat, you don't hear that as much here, right? You hear conservative, liberal, NDP. I honestly have no idea what the breakdown is in a Masonic lodge. My suspicion is it probably follows um, it follows where you're at. So if you're like in a deep red area of Texas, then the lodge is probably made up significantly of Republicans. If you're in like a deep blue area of New York, your lodge is probably made up primarily of Democrats, is what I would assume. But I would think it would probably follow pretty closely to whatever is in the country. It's interesting. For many years, Freemasonry was viewed as a left-wing organization in the kind of the late 17th through the 18th centuries. It was viewed as very left-wing because it was very pro-democracy, anti-authoritarian. And then in the early 1900s, it was viewed as very conservative. So you have to believe in a supreme being, Justin, or Joshua, excuse me. Freemasonry is democracy. Like it is democratic in that you vote on things. And even the worshipful master, he may disagree with something, but if the lodge votes on it, he is responsible for passing it through. There is not, I wish there was, it'd make life so much more fun and interesting and exciting, but there is sadly, or not sadly, no sexual debauchery involved in Freemasonry. That would be, oh, sorry, demon. I thought you said democratically based, Vera. Sorry, demon. No, there's no demons in Freemasonry. Again, I was doing a rough estimate. I've probably been to about 2,000, sorry, probably been to about 3,000 Masonic events, Masonic meetings, Masonic rituals. I've seen rituals across North America, Mexico, and Canada. At no point was a demon or demons ever mentioned in any rituals I've ever seen. So if it is, they are hiding it very, very well. Oh, so you do mean Democrat. I'm trying to read. So it is Democrat. Okay. So when you say Democrat, do you mean Democrat as in democracy and like being democratic elected, or do you mean Democrat as in the Democratic Party, like the political party? Because the first, my eyes really are this blue. Thank you, Brendan. I hope you're here. Sorry, I misread it twice. I'm very sorry, Vera. But what I'll say is Freemasonry is a democratic institution. It believes in the ideals of democracy, electing the officers, passing votes and motions, but it is not affiliated with any political party, Democrat, Republican, or anything in between. Okay, good, Mystical. I'm happy that you do. And I'm very, very sorry, Vera, for misreading you. Stephen, once again, nope, there is no sexual debauchery in Freemasonry. Believe me, I've been to so many Masonic meetings, I would have seen something by now. Now, don't get me wrong, some of those meetings get pretty boring, and maybe some, sexual debauchery would have spiced things up a little bit, but, I've never seen anything in a lodge, anything like that, so you just have to take my word for it. Unless Todd Long knows something I don't know. Unless they're keeping it from me, they're hiding it from me. Maybe because they know I'm boring and not interesting. Oh, the Democratic Party? Then yeah, no, Freemasonry is not associated with any political party, Democrat or Republican. I don't even know if there's ever been any polls done amongst membership as to how many are Republican, how many are Democratic. I mean, there have been, I used to know this number off by heart, 19 presidents who were Freemasons. How many of them were Democrats versus Republican? Like so some would argue Joe Biden was a Freemason. Some would argue it wasn't. I don't know. It depends how you view the idea of making a Mason on site, all that stuff. the last Mason that no one disagrees was a Mason was Gerald Ford. He was a Republican, right? Dwight D. Eisenhower, Republican. Um, uh, 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 oh my God, I can't think of his name now. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Democrat. His vice president, who became president, was a Democrat. Theodore Roosevelt was a Democrat, I think. So it's 50-50. Order of the Elk. James, welcome. I hope you guys will hit the like and subscribe button. Freemasonry is not connected with the Bohemian Grove. There may have been Freemasons there. I have no clue. I've never got invited, put it that way. Todd, I hope what I'm saying makes sense. There you go. So yeah, so I don't know where this idea of Freemasonry and like debauchery got started, but I've never seen it. I can assure you, I've never seen it in Illinois, where I've been to many Masonic meetings and I've loved every single one of them. I am not special ed, but I am in a wheelchair, so I guess you can define that as you will. But I like to think I'm very smart. Heed, welcome. Thank you for joining as well. I hope you will hit the like and subscribe button. Well, the Illuminati, again, they're a separate group from Freemasonry. The Illuminati, it really doesn't exist anymore. Of course, that is what you would expect me to say if I was an Illuminati, so I guess you'll have to take my word for it. But, Freemasonry has no interest in kind of governing or New World Order. In fact, Freemasonry is jurisdictional, so there is no one world governance for Freemasonry. There's Masonry in Illinois, which is different from Masonry in Ontario, which is different from Masonry in Texas. I don't believe he has HEED, Heed. I don't think he has. I don't know for sure. I could be wrong, but I've never seen any convincing evidence that he's been one, put it that way. There are some musicians who have been. Mozart was a musician who has been. Brad Paisley is a Mason. He's talked about that, but I wish Snoop Dogg was a Mason. It'd be awesome. Snow Sage. You would be, again, mystical, you would be so disappointed. We do not dress up and practice the dark arts, but, it would be interesting. Todd, let me know if you want to do that. Maybe it'd be fun. Heed, please hit the like and subscribe button. I would love to visit Central Illinois. Freemasonry's problem is an explicit fundamental ecumenicism. Could you expand on that, No Sage? I'd love to know more about what you mean. And could you please hit the like and subscribe button? I truly appreciate that as well. Tell me how Freemasonry has changed your life. Gosh, that's a really tough question, Vera. It's kind of like asking a fish to describe water. I mean, I'm so involved in Freemasonry. I think Freemasonry, the Oddfellows was connected to Freemasonry. It was a kind of an offshoot organization that started through Masonic leadership wanting a separate fraternal order. I like the Oddfellows. They're good guys. They're good dudes. Odd, but good dudes. Freemasonry changed my life by giving me an avenue through which I could try to make the world a better place. And again, why that avenue spoke to me in a way other avenues don't. Vera, I always say, and Todd can maybe help me, let me know if this makes sense. Welcome back, Couscous. My favorite song in the world is Simple Man by Leonard Skinner. My second favorite song in the world, sometimes my favorite, is Prodigal by Blacktop Mojo. I love both of those songs. Now, you could hear that song, Mystical could hear that song, Steven could hear that song, and maybe they'll love it like I do, maybe they'll hate it, maybe they'll think it's just okay. There's something about my life experiences, my personality, the way that I just am, what's happening in the world, that I, hear it and I love it. There are a million people who go through Freemasonry. Maybe some, like me, go through it and love it. Some don't, and that's perfectly fine. There's just something about Freemasonry that speaks to me that makes me want to pursue that as an avenue to make the world a better place. Not everybody will have that same reaction, and that's perfectly fine. Just like not everybody likes the same song. But ultimately, it's a personal thing. But I do believe that the world can be made better. I believe we have a responsibility to try to make the world better. And I think Freemasonry gives me an opportunity to do that by marshaling my abilities and energies with others and then helping people when they struggle, whether it be my Masonic brothers or sometimes their families or sometimes the communities. I hope that made sense. Freemasonry is explicitly about religious believers in any higher power gathering together as a cohort, but that's against the Bible. We're to have no fellowship with unbelievers like that. A Mason tried to recruit me and told me I had to believe in higher power. Okay, so no sage. Let me ask you this question, and I do very much appreciate you being here. Absolutely, and thank you so much for your comments. Let's imagine, and I'm gonna use the Canadian example because I can't speak for sure what happens in the States, but I'm gonna use the Canadian example. Let's imagine that I get called into court. I witness a crime and I get called into court, right? I go to court to testify. I will have to take an obligation or an oath before I testify. Now, I would use the Bible because I would consider myself culturally Christian. It's, what I most know. There may be another witness who would, swear using a Quran. Another witness would take an oath using a Torah. Another witness, who let's say is indigenous or First Nations, would take an oath using an eagle feather. But you wouldn't say it's wrong for them all to gather, because ultimately the court is a civic and a civil institution, and it's required and should respect the faiths of anyone coming through its doors to take part in the activity. In the same way, Freemasonry is not a religion, it is rather a civic and civil institution. It has oaths and obligations, which are important important part of ritual to develop, bonds of friendship and brotherhood. But ultimately, it's civic, and as a civic institution, we have responsibility to maintain our, we have responsibility to be respectful of all religious institutions. So the Bible wouldn't say, I don't believe, don't go to court because you'll be gathering with people of different faiths, taking obligations on different books with different ideas of the Supreme Being. They would rather say, it's a civic institution, it's separate from church, just like Freemasonry is separate from church. Again, Vera, I'm very, very sorry about your uncle. All I can say is I hope you recognize that I am not corrupt. At least I try not to be. I make mistakes, as does everybody, and I'm sure many Masons have. Never a mistake or something as horrible as your uncle's behavior. But I guess I can say I hope you recognize that I'm trying my best, and I do believe there are more good Masons out there than bad, just like I believe there's more good people out there than bad. But I certainly can 100% understand, Vera, why having that experience would sour you to Freemasonry. That absolutely makes sense to me. I think anybody would be soured to Freemasonry based on what happened to you. Mystical, I will vote for that as well. I will vote for Cloak Knight. Organizations explicitly requiring religious belief and requiring, so it does not require religious belief. It requires a belief in a supreme being, which I would not call religious. In fact, supreme being is an Enlightenment term. Thank you, Mystical. I don't want to hurt anybody either, right? The Bible says you have to live in a world with unbelievers, but there's a difference, in my opinion, between doing a thing that brings you incidentally into contact. So where would you say that line is, no say? So for example, is it like so, joining a football club, you would be with different types of belief. So, I guess, how would you kind of find it? I mean, I think I understand your point, and I have heard many people of the Christian faith make that point. I guess I've seen enough Christians be Freemasons that it seems like they're able to join and not feel it contradicts their faith at all. So Smokey the Clown is back. Welcome back. So Joshua, every Shriner is a Freemason, but not every Freemason is a Shriner. You can become a Shriner after you've been a Freemason, and if you choose to join, it's purely a charitable organization, as well as a few other types of things. But it's kind of a charitable branch of Freemasonry. So I guess, no, Sage, and I really appreciate these questions. Um, um, I don't believe that Freemasonry, in my experience, is a spiritual. Now, there are Masons who may find a spiritual path in it, but it's not something I've ever found personally. For me, again, Freemasonry, spiritual is something that's inward. It's you to the divine. But for me, Freemasonry is ultimately an outwardly thing. It's about you joining something to then try to make the world a better place. So I'm not sure if I would consider Freemasonry spiritual. But again, you can find it spiritual in the sense of, for example, I can watch a really great movie and find it spiritually moving. Um, Good, like moonshine, I'm sure some Masons do. Um, who is the supreme being it calls upon? Asked Vera. The supreme being it calls upon, Vera, is completely personal. So every Mason may have a slightly different answer to that question. Some, it will be Allah. Some it will be, um, Jesus. Some it will be a First Nations type of thing where it's spiritual like Mother Earth. It is personal and unique to each individual. That's the thing I love about Freemasonry. That's one of the things that attracts me to it. There's about 850,000 Freemasons in the States. So Vera, you'd have to kind of ask each one. Stephen, I'll get to you in just one second. But so there are some Masons who would worship God and the Holy Spirit. When you ask that question, it sounds like, to me, what you're saying is God and Holy Spirit in a Christian context. So there are many who do, but there are many who do not. Like I do not personally. I do not believe in. I believe in a supreme being, but I would not call myself a Christian, or believe in kind of the tenets of the Bible, nor any book, any religious text, I should say. We are improving things mystical. So Lucifer, Stephen Skiba asks. And by the way, Smokey the Clown, one of the old Moonshine songs, right, was Copperhead Road, which references Freemasonry in a fun little note. Does Lucifer qualify as that? So I have been told that I've never seen it myself, that there are two kind of groups that qualify under worshiping Lucifer. One is Satanists, they call themselves Satanists, and the other call themselves Luciferians. Satanists, so if they say my supreme being is a Satanist, and I've had this experience before. I was in my lodge, in my building, and somebody called and said they wanted to join because they worship Satan and wanted to join the Masonic Lodge to worship us. And I said, or worship Satan. And I said, well, Freemasonry is not the Satanic Temple. I think you have the wrong phone number. But if you want to come and talk more about Freemasonry, I'm happy to talk to you about it. And so he came to the lodge. He said his supreme being was Satan. I explained to him what Freemasonry is, what it's based on, what it believes, and he decided he did not want to join because his worship of Satan he did not find compatible with Freemasonry. Because he said, Freemasonry, we believe in serving something higher than ourselves. We believe in things like democracy, reason, and being part of something and serving something that is greater than ourselves. And he said, as a Satanist, I believe I am, my own supreme being, and I worship myself, which would not necessarily comply. Luciferians, to what I understand, and I could be getting this wrong, but I've researched this a little bit, they view a difference between Satan, the fallen angel, and Lucifer as almost like a bringer of knowledge, kind of like a Prometheus figure, a Greek god figure. And I have been told that there are some of those in Freemasonry, though I've never met any myself. I need to know more about their beliefs. But that's my experience thus far. I've never met any Satanist Freemasons, nor have I ever heard Satan referenced in any Masonic rituals, if that makes any sense at all. I just watched 3 shorts. Well, yeah, that sounds like a very interesting fellow. Join the Hellfire Club. I mean, I don't even know what the Hellfire Club is. I know there's a Church of Satan in Detroit, and look, I don't judge anybody's beliefs. Whatever you believe, I hope you find someone who it is what it is. But there are some ideas and beliefs that are not going to be conducive to Freemasonry. An example I might use is, this is not a religious context, but let's say you want to join a football team. You want to play football, and you don't believe in teamwork. You're probably not going to do well on the football team, So it's not about judging. It's just about recognizing some beliefs are probably not compatible with Freemasonry. And based on my understanding, as Satanist, even if he did get through and said Satan's my supreme being and was able to join, he probably would not enjoy it, nor would he find anything in the lodge, because to my knowledge, the views are so incompatible. I mean, Moose is just another couscous. Moose is just another fraternal order. There are many Moose who are also Freemasons. I've been to some Moose meetings as a Freemason, so they're connected, but they're not the same organization. Not yet, but I will check it out for sure, Smokey. I've just been too busy. Yeah, I mean, no sage is not wrong. Unfortunately, bad things happen in every institution. I've been very lucky. I've never seen anything that I would consider. I mean, I've been frustrated. I've been annoyed with decisions made about where to spend money or doing events or not doing events. I've never seen anything in a Masonic lodge that would be criminal or something that would make me feel like morally wrong. The greater good or the greater God, I mean, depending how you define it, those could be the same thing. Who knows? That would be dependent. Now, I'm not trying to be a Jordan Peterson here, but that could be dependent on how you define God, right? If you could argue God is the greater good. But I don't want to be too much of a Jordan Peterson and start, how do you define this? How do you define that? And then changing definitions willy-nilly. It's pain in the butt. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I truly, truly appreciate it. I hope everybody is doing well. Please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Yeah, I was never a huge fan of him. I don't know if he's the worst, but he's definitely, I was not a big fan. And this kind of ties into Freemasonry a bit in the sense that I always was really worried that the Jordan Petersons, because they were speaking to men. And on a surface level, if you don't delve too deeply, there were some potentials. Men could go there for guidance and not in Masonic lodge. And I was worried in some ways he's fooling young men. And, listening to Jordan Peterson will not give you the same type of guidance, support, and good life that, in my opinion, joining Freemasonry does, in my opinion. Clean your room, Peterson. So that's really interesting. Hit it. Just keep hitting it. No, I understand, Smokey the Clown. I just say it every now and then because people jump in and out of the chat. So I want to make sure if you're in for like 30 seconds, you hear me say it. There is an interesting kind of idea. What am I hoping? Nothing. Honestly, I don't want to get anything from Freemasonry other than the opportunity to fight for a better world. That's it. And whenever anybody asks about what they can get from Freemasonry, I always tell them you'll get nothing. And that's not really true, obviously. You get to meet people you wouldn't meet otherwise. You get to form friendships. You get to have the feeling of being part of an organization bigger than yourself, which can give people comfort. You get to be part of a group that will, if you lose your job or need money, can provide you with benevolence to assist you in that way. So you get those kind of things, but it's not why you should be joining. You shouldn't be joining to get something from it. You should be joining to contribute to it and contribute to the world at large, if that makes any sense. It's kind of like there's that old joke about we've read a job interview and somebody asks you why you want this job, and your answer is like, well, for the money, of course. It's like, no, that shouldn't be your answer. You should want to get the job because you feel like you can contribute something to that place of work that no one else can. And Freemasonry, you should be joining not to get something out of it because you feel like you can contribute something to that lodge and thereby contribute something to the world. I have not. I'll have to read it, occultist. I'm sorry, Vera. That sucks. I'm very sorry you lost your job. I wish you the best of luck, though, in hopefully looking for a new one. But that sucks. Shaq is a Mason, Todd. I'll give you that one. Shaquille O'Neal is a Mason. I used to be in the Proud Boys and their founder. Well, the Proud Boys, to my understanding of it, I know very little about it, but to my knowledge, it is not like the Freemasons. The Proud Boys, from what I understand, seems to be a pretty not good organization. But I know very little about it, so maybe there's something I'm missing, but I would not be comfortable with that comparison based on what I understand of the Proud Boys, which seems to be a group that is more interested in civil unrest as opposed to civil improvement or civic improvement. Welcome. Thank you, everybody, for joining. It's been another great stream. I hope you will once again take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button if you're just joining us. If you've already hit it, thank you so much. I still believe in God. Vera Walker, I still believe in God. What I don't believe in is that there's any one particular religious group that understands that term sufficiently that I would believe their tenets. So I believe in a supreme being, but I don't believe, for example, that I don't believe the tenets of any one particular faith, put it that way. So I believe there's a supreme being. I believe the supreme being is something greater than us that cares for us, but I don't believe necessarily in the accounts of the Bible that the earth was created in 7 days, things like that. Then thank you, Smokey the Clown. Hit that heart thing. I appreciate it. And the reason I don't necessarily believe in any particular religious text, and this is me speaking for me, not speaking for anybody else, because like I said, there are many Christian Freemasons, Muslim Freemasons, Jewish Freemasons, First Nations, is, I don't believe in the miracle and the supernatural aspects of it. I don't believe in supernatural. The idea of, for example, being able to raise somebody from the dead. I just don't believe that's possible. But that's my opinion, and I could very well be wrong. I'm the supreme being, and it took me months to make the earth. Even months, then, that is pretty impressive. If it took you just months to make the earth, that you're not doing too bad, Milton Knowles. You should be quite impressed. I feel like it would take me years to build the earth, to be perfectly frank. Years and years, so good on you for doing it in months. MK Ultra, that's a gang, right? To my knowledge, it has no ties to MK Ultra. Again, I say to my knowledge, because I feel like I've heard that expression before. I just can't place it. But, or is it, yeah, I think it's a gang, but I don't know. Like, Freemasonry has no organizations to any criminal organizations. Trauma-based mind control? I mean, that's quite the expression. Honestly, if I were to put that on the back of a business card and say, join Freemasonry, it's trauma-based mind control, I would probably end up getting a lot more members joining because they'd be really curious. But they'd be very disappointed when they find out there was no mind control. And, there is trauma bonding in Freemasonry in the sense that you go through a 7-hour budget meeting to try to set your budget for the next year, and everybody's fighting with each other about how much money to spend on ribs and dinners. That is trauma bonding 100%. I promise you that. And Todd can probably, relate to some of those moments. MK Ultra equals trauma-based. Well, that, again, that could be, sounds, at least it would make things more interesting than we're going to spend $30 on a new light bulb and somebody gets up and says we should spend $20 on a new light bulb. Todd Long gets it. Todd Long's been through the wars, the trauma bonding experiences. Wait, MK Ultra is a film from 2022. CIA in the 1960s. The film follows Dr. I'll have to look up this film. Thank you for sharing it. By the way, I have another channel, a personal YouTube channel, youtube.com/Cameron Adamson, where every weekend I do midnight movie watch-alongs. So I'm hoping you guys can maybe join me on one of those. It'd be wonderful to have you. Thank you so much, though, everybody, for being here. I truly appreciate it. It's been a great stream. We've had probably 200 people join, and for 1 a.m., that's not bad. I think maybe what I'm going to do is pick a particular one of these people. I already talked about the Enlightenment and Freemasonry a little bit, these historical figures. The idea, what the Enlightenment really was about was things like democracy, reason. That's what Freemasonry is about as well. Is it? I mean, I've seen Eyes Wide Shut years ago. I promise you. Okay, I was going to say, like, how, again, what am I missing out on? Like, I remember watching Eyes Wide Shut. I was like, where are these Masonic lodges? Why is my life so boring and my Masonic experience is so boring? You got Tom Cruise and his Eyes Wide Shut party, I mean, I think Kanye lost his mind years ago, but the symptoms grew more and more severe, right? You can lose you can have mental illness but manage to keep your symptoms under control for years if you have the right doctors and medications and you're paying attention. The problem with mental illness is it's a liar, right? And it lies to you. It tells you you're okay when you're not, and you're right when you're not, and kind of it's very easy. And I do think, I will look it up for sure. I do think, though, one thing I will say is I don't want to get in trouble. I do think sometimes when you are particularly artistic and artistically talented, mental illness can send you down an even more dangerous path. And I think Kanye is a very talented artist. I also think he's a very sick individual. And I think that he is also, with his work, hurting a lot of people. Both people who love him and just people in the world. I've seen parts of Meet the Millers, never the whole thing. I agree. We should be thinking about what's good and beautiful, metaphorically and otherwise. I agree with that 100%. What I think is you've been fed the lettuce. You don't understand how incorporated Freemasonry is with the government and mind control. I mean, maybe you're right, Vera. Who knows? But I, again, have not seen anything that would indicate those things to be true. And I do think this is a rough estimate, but, approximately 3,000 Masonic events, Masonic degrees, meetings, and not just in Canada, but around the world, specifically North America. I just can't imagine I wouldn't have noticed more if it was incorporated so much. Or like something, right? And I've never seen anything that would indicate those things. It could be because I wasn't paying attention. It could be because things are being hidden from me. It's just, I would find it hard to believe that having been to so much and seen so much, that I wouldn't notice these things. And I like to think that even though I can in some ways, we can all have our blind spots, don't get me wrong. And certainly we all definitely have our blind spots. I like to think I'm able to recognize when things aren't right, or hopefully I can. So I guess what I'd say is, I use the example, I've said this before when it comes to professional wrestling, people have said, there's this famous quote about professional wrestling. And the quote was, I can't convince you that professional wrestling is real, but I can convince you that I'm real. In the same way, what I say about Freemasonry to people who have concerns about it is, I can't convince you that Freemasonry is good, but I hope I can convince you that I'm good. And I hope I've been able to do that in this meeting, and maybe that makes you rethink. It is a work, it is kayfabe, but that doesn't mean it's not real. It hurts. As a professional wrestler, I can tell you it hurts. I will work on organizing this cloak night, I promise you. Even though I'm in a wheelchair, by the way, I am a professional wrestler or training to be one, and also a professional wrestling referee. So, kayfabe still real, but even if you don't think it's real, hopefully you think I'm real. JJ, welcome JJ. Hope you're doing well. I hope JJ you'll hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know how it's going. Anything you want to talk about. Awesome, Smokey the Clown. Who's your favorite wrestler? Whenever I ask who's your favorite or what's your favorite, I think of it does kayfabe sound like a nice lady, but it is not. Kayfabe means keeping in character as a wrestler. I know what you're saying though. I get it. No, Sage. Dorinda Taylor. Hello, I hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. I hope you will hit the like and subscribe button. Hey, CM Punk got to start in backyard wrestling. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the occultism to which you refer. I mean, I think occultism, like using occult symbols, can be a very convenient and easy way to make money because it gives you an air of like mystery and being mysterious, and people see the symbols on your album and are more likely to buy it. I mean, Marilyn Manson talked about that, back when he was really popular. He said he does all these symbols because it helps him sell records. Good for you, JJ. I cannot help you with that one because I am very tired. I'm going to be probably going to sleep pretty soon. It's 2:21 here, but it is amazing how many people there are up at night. Check on my streams. I do one stream at 1 p.m. Eastern and then one stream at 1 a.m. Eastern. It's amazing how many people show up for the 1 a.m. Meetings. So spellcasters, alchemists, that's where my head is at. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, I mean, I think the artists themselves, or the labels, or a combination of both, are behind it in the sense that they want to sell records, so they use occult symbols to like gin up controversy, to gin up interest. The best way to get a teenager to buy an album, I say album, I feel old. The best way to get a teenager to buy an album is to get the parents to hate the album, because that is going to make the teen want to buy it even more. So you put some occult symbol on it, it freaks the parents out. They tell the kids don't buy it, the kids want to buy it even more. Can you talk about the process of joining Freemasons? Stone Cold, Macho Man, Undertaker, all fair. Mine is John Cena. This tattoo where it says the next one I have is based on John Cena, because he would always say his favorite match was the next one. So Go Hotel, the process of joining Freemasons, it starts to be one, ask one, right? That is the start of it. You ask a Mason to tell you more about it. If, you get to know them and the relationship goes well, you can get an application. You fill out the application. Part of the application, it requires sponsors. You get your sponsors. They have an investigation committee, and you kind of go from there. I can take anywhere from one, I will say Grand Lodges are really encouraging the lodges themselves to take things slower, to take more time between when somebody expresses an interest in joining and actually gets an application and then actually joins. It used to be you show up, you say you're interested in joining, you get an application right away, you get a sponsor right away, and they join. Now, it can take a little while longer. They want to get to know you, spend more time getting to know you, talk to you some more. and they kind of go from there. So really what matters is you taking that time to ask questions, get to know the guys. If you have a family, your family can get to know the guys as well. That stuff really, really matters. And that's what you should be focused on. And don't worry about timelines. But Ricky the Strange Steamboat was great. By the way, if you're just joining us, thank you so much for being here. Please take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button. If you have already hit the like and subscribe button, then I really do appreciate you doing that. But thank you for being here. I love wrestling in general too. I did an article or a video about a Freemason who was a professional wrestler back from the 60s. Tom Lennox Bradley. I'm here live streaming talking about Freemasonry. Tom Lennox, I need to ask you the question, what are you doing, especially if you're not hitting the like and subscribe button? Then for heaven's sakes, Tom Lennox, what are you doing with your life, you know? Not just right now, but with your whole life. No worries, Todd. I mean, everybody has their own things they like. It's like Freemasonry. Some people love it, some people don't, both of which is perfectly fine. I was talking about Freemasonry and the Enlightenment. I can start talking about that again a little bit more. You know, while countless intermediate connections can be drawn between the craft and Enlightenment. Thank you, Tom Lennox. I truly appreciate it. What is the tangible impact of Freemasonry on the Enlightenment? More specifically, what role did the Masons play in the development, creation, and dissemination of the fine arts? Thank you again, Tom. Enlightenment was not simply a time of political and scientific advancement, but was a massively influential period of art, design, and playwriting. Rich and middling classes alike flocked to see performances orchestrated by Mozart and Haydn. Thousands of painters were actively creating works of art, and the number of theaters in Paris alone increased from 3 to 51 in the 18th century. So the term profane is, you can use it to describe non-Masons, but it's just a term that really means outsiders. So if I'm on a football team, anybody not on the team would be profane. If I'm in a member of a church, anybody not in the church would be profane. Tell me, why should I become a Freemason? What would be the benefit? Vera, you would get no benefit from Freemasonry except the opportunity to make the world a better place by being part of a group that supports its brothers and the community. Right? There's no other benefit. You're not going to get rich. You're not going to get famous. You're not, etc., etc. You will obviously meet people you wouldn't meet otherwise, which is really special. And there's things like that, but I've always said now, there is no benefit to joining Freemasonry except the opportunity to fight for a better world, which I do think is pretty special. So Todd, I'm going to have to disagree with you a little bit there, and this is something that's important to me. There is what's called the Order of Women Freemasons, and there is also Eastern Star, both of which welcome females and both of which are Masonic orders. I know Order of Women Freemasons is not recognized everywhere. It is recognized in UGLE, and it's becoming more recognized here in Canada, though it's not official. But I consider, if you join the Order of Women Freemasons, I consider you a Freemason. I can't join your lodge. You can't join my lodge. We can't sit in each other's lodges, but I do consider you a Freemason. In the same way, if you join Eastern Star, you're not a Freemason, but you're a member of Eastern Star, and you are part of my Masonic family. So, but you will not get anything out of it except for the opportunity to make the world a better place. But Todd, if you want to say, for example, what it is that you think something is out of Freemasonry, I'd love to know. No worries, Tom. I do appreciate you being here very much. I think the club I'm looking for is Scientology. I don't know anything about Scientology, so mystical, I can't help you at all. So I've not heard, again, I have had one person who said their supreme being was Satan, expressed interest in joining a lodge. When I talked about Freemasonry was and is and how it works, he advised that Satanism and Freemasonry were not compatible and decided not to join the lodge. So you can take that for whatever it's worth. What do I think happens when I die? Oh my gosh. You know, when you say that, it sounds like I'm going to die tomorrow. Now you've got me paranoid. Um, what do I think happens when I die? I honestly have no idea. I like to believe that some part of us lives on, and not just lives on in the sense that our body rots and is used to, you know, create more soil and grow more flowers, which does happen, and I think that's a beautiful thing in its way. I'd like to think a part of us lives on, a part of our soul or our spirit. I like to believe that in myself there is an eternal idea, but um, what that looks like or how it interacts with the world, I have no idea. I wish I did, believe me, but I don't. Um, I guess if nothing else, I will use the Keanu Reeves answer. When we die, the people who love us will miss us. And the people who hate us will rejoice. And I'm sure there's going to be a few people jumping up and down when I kick the bucket. There are Sogo Hotel. There are certain things I'm not allowed to share. Again, I could share them and nothing would happen to me. I choose not to share them. It's not a matter of being allowed because I want to maintain the bonds of brotherhood, and to do that, part of that requires maintaining those secrets. Mystical. I hope you're right, and I hope that you know find yourself in heaven. That's a wonderful thing to believe, Vera, and I hope that you're right. And it sounds wonderful to me. Well, I'm sure, you know, again, maybe it'll be half and half. My suspicion is at my funeral, half the people are going to be very sad I'm gone, and half the people are going to be dancing up and down that I'm gone. And you know what? I'll take both, because at least it means I made an impact. At least it means people will know. Thank you, Sogo Hotel. I appreciate that. And to everybody watching this, I hope you guys are around for many years also. But, you know, we all do have to go sooner or later, so it's worth thinking about that stuff, I suppose. But thank you, everybody who has joined. As I was saying, let's see. I want to try to find the Voltaire stuff. So we're going back to Freemasonry in the... I am a night owl, Rondo, but welcome. Thank you for being here. I do 2 streams now, one at 1 p.m. Eastern and one at 1 a.m. Eastern. And then, you know, who needs sleep? Who needs sleep? And Sogo, you're welcome. I hope that I was able to explain it to you well. I hope it made sense. Thank you so much for being here. And please take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button. To everybody who's joining. I know you already done that, Rondo, but I say that to everybody who jumps. You know, I say that all the time so I catch people. And I hope I've done a good job explaining it. Absolutely. That's a good way to look at it, Vera, and thank you for that. I like to try to be a good guy. Again, whether I succeed or not is anybody's guess, but I try my best. Do you eat pork? I do eat pork. I love bacon. You know, you can't be angry when you're eating bacon. I don't know who Amanda Tapping is. What movies has she been in, Todd? I'd love to know. Thank you, Todd. Yeah. Thank you, Sogo Hotel, as well. I truly appreciate it. I know you have. I just say it all the time because I have new people joining the stream, and they may be on for like 5 minutes, so I want to say it before they leave the stream. So I repeat it a lot. I know it can get annoying. I hope you guys will just stick with me when I say it. But I get it, believe me, I do. Okay, cool. I like sci-fi. I have a lot of pictures with famous actresses from horror movies because I love horror. Horror is my favorite genre. I could honestly just show you guys that instead of talking about Freemasonry and the Enlightenment if you were interested. I did my best, Stephen, and I'm glad you were here. We've had about 200 and some people come through, so it's been wonderful. Thank you so much. Interesting. This morning when I did this poll, Ben Franklin won as the favorite Enlightenment Freemasonry, but this evening it's Mozart. Maybe Mozart is more a 1 a.m. person and Ben Franklin is more a 1 p.m. person. No, honestly, there are many Masons who wish I wouldn't do these chats because there are a lot of Masons who are older, they're more old school, and they're kind of nervous about technology. And they just don't like the idea of social media, they don't like the idea of Freemasonry on the internet. They're kind of back in my day, we mailed, letters to members and we didn't use email. I know some Masons who are against using email, for heaven's sakes. So no one coerced me. I just love talking about Freemasonry. I think it's really important. I think it matters. And I think I think if there are going to be a bunch of, I don't mean this term in a disparaging way, but, you can find conspiracy theorists talking poop about Freemasonry on YouTube all the time. So I feel like we as Freemasons need to be on it as well to show the positive of Freemasonry and why it actually is a good thing and matters. I've heard of the Hellfire Club. I heard Ben Franklin was a member of it as well. I would start a petition for that, even though Mozart was not American. Give him the $200 bill. He deserves it. It's Mozart. First, they need to put Bret Hart on the Canadian 20, even though I love the King, God Save the King. Bret Hart should be on it. And then we'll worry about Mozart. I will sign it, Heed. I will sign it. Yeah, I don't think it exists anymore, Stephen, but I have heard of it as well. But thank you, everybody, for joining. It's been a really wonderful time. I'll be back on tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, to talk more about all this stuff. Thank you for being here, everybody who's joined. It's been wonderful. I've heard about that. And Ben Franklin, I know, like I said, he was also a Freemason, Enlightenment thinker, apparently a ladies' man, right? Freemasonry of the Enlightenment period was characterized by an interesting duality. The order was sometimes relegated to cult-like status, popularized. I don't want to seem nervous, Vera. So if I do, then I apologize. But I am not. I'm not nervous. I'd be a pretty bad YouTuber if I was nervous because I've been doing these streams so much. I don't always make, direct eye contact with the camera because I do have my notes. Let me see if I can show it to you. I think this should be good. Blink twice if you need help. Now I'm afraid to blink. I have my notes on my laptop. So sometimes when I'm looking away, it's to check out my laptop notes. And also, I'm lucky enough. Oops. Here, let me show you this as well. I'm lucky enough to have a beautiful view of the Detroit River. And so every now and then I like to look over to it, even at night because it lights up and it's so beautiful. Let me see if I can show this. This isn't as creepy as it seems, I promise. I'm just trying to show you guys my view out my window. I'm going to turn this around. Let's see if we can, oh geez, get a good view. I wish I could show you the Ren Center. Right, that's the Renaissance Center. You can kind of see there in the background. So like, why would I not want to look over and see this beautiful stuff every now and then? By the way, June 23rd, I'm going to have a fireworks night where I'm going to be live streaming the Detroit Windsor fireworks, which are going to be incredible. So, funny story. As Matt, we've all been there before. So I'm not going to ban you for kind of trolling the chat because we've all been there. I'm going to tell you a funny story, Vera, then the actual story. So years ago, and Todd, you can let me know what you think of this. We had a new guy joining Freemasonry. New guy joining the lodge, and He was just talking, and somebody was talking next to me, and he said, before Cameron joined Freemasonry, he had legs, and it freaked, and he freaked out about it, and he was nervous after that. And we got in trouble for making that joke because we were told we shouldn't be scaring people, which we shouldn't have been, in fairness. Um, um, what was I going to say? So that got me in trouble. So I was told never, I'm not allowed to make that joke again, or my friend couldn't make that joke again. The actual answer is I was born this way. So I was born with no legs. I used artificial limbs for the first 15 years of my life, give or take. When I went to high school, I switched it over to a wheelchair, and I've used the wheelchair ever since. And I like being in a wheelchair. Honestly, even if I could go back in time and change it and be born with legs, I think I would still choose to be born without legs. X, hello there. How is your day? My day is going well, X. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for being here. Please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button. I suppose I shouldn't, tell people where I live and stuff, but it is what it is. I find if I want people to be honest with me on their views of Freemasonry, I should be honest with them. Thank you, X. I truly appreciate it. If you have any questions about Freemasonry, X, positive, negative, or neutral, please let me know. I would love to hear them. I can't promise you I can answer everything, but I've been a Freemason for approximately 20 years. So I do know some stuff. I've done some research, etc., etc. I'm a past master, current master. Oh, I'm one subscription away from 2,220. I feel you. It's 2:41 in the morning here. I'm feeling quite tired too, but I still appreciate you being here. We're going to power through it for the next 20 minutes or so at least, and then we'll go from there, because I do also need to get some sleep. Is there truth to the left-hand, right-hand path? I've heard that expression before, but I don't know precisely what it means. There's left hand and right hand in terms of like Scottish Rite, York Rite, which are your appendant bodies. And some people refer to that as left hand, right hand path. But beyond that, at the end of the day, what matters is third degree. I am not, I was born missing my legs, so I did not lose them in combat. Some people assume that I did. I'm actually not US either. I'm Canadian, Windsor, Ontario. But I've always said I've always said Canada is the greatest country in the world because we have the greatest neighbors in the world, and I truly believe that. X, I will take that as a huge compliment because I am a big wuss. I am not nearly as tough as a Marine with or legs or without. I prefer things like sleeping, taking a nap, warm showers. I have not doing anything physically exhausting. So for heaven's sakes, don't make me a Marine. I'm a wuss. I ain't near as tough as those guys. I don't have what it takes at all. Those guys are crazy impressive. So in Freemasonry, there's never been any discussion in terms of white magic, black magic, in any of my experiences with it. The only time we talk about magic is the fact that Harry Houdini was a Mason, but he was famously hated mysticism. So, there's no magical paths in Freemasonry. Well, then your dad sounds like he was a pretty incredible dude. I can't imagine how tough he would be to do that. That's true, and that is something we have been told. So people, when I joined, I got the riding the goat stuff a bit, and I never minded it. But people have different views, and they are trying to move away from that stuff. How many bad comments have you got? I don't consider any comment bad, even if it's a comment that is rude or disrespectful. I try to treat it in a respectful manner or respond in a respectful manner. And that is true, Rondo. That is perfectly true. And that's probably why most Masonic bodies are trying to move away from that. Certainly, most Grand Lodges are trying to push away from that. I'm very sorry that that happened, X. I'm sure that he was a great guy, and I'm sure that he's very proud of you. He died of cancer. My mom passed away of cancer a year ago, so I kind of know what that's like. But I was lucky. She passed away. I was 40 years old. So, I got my mom for 40 years. And I was saying when she passed away, I was saying, look, I could be sad that she's gone, or I could be grateful that I got 40 years with her, right? I chose to be grateful, especially when there are people such as yourself who, you know, you lost your father at 5. Yeah, I'm very sorry that that happened. You didn't really know him, I understand, right? When he passed away when you're 5, you couldn't really know him, but nonetheless, I'd like to think, and I'm sure he's proud of you. Danny Ray, you look like John Reagan's Washington Redskins. Well, I mean, that makes sense because I was always taught that John Reagan's Washington Redskins 1980s was an incredibly handsome fellow and an incredibly good person and incredibly handsome and quite the ladies' man. So, that does make sense. I'm sorry for that as well, Stephen, that you never got to know your father. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I don't, if you're 5, you're not really going to understand it, right? That knowledge, and I'm sure that that knowledge is something that, every mom and every dad and every parent wishes they could shield from their kids. I'm sure that if they could, they would want their kids to grow up never having to know about things like death and sickness and disease. But unfortunately, that is not the world in which we live. I wish it was, but kids have to learn about these things. I remember when I'm not trying to say this to be diminishing X, but I remember when I was younger, I was probably 5 or 6, and my goldfish died, and my parents have to explain to me what that was and what that meant. It was, I'm sure they wish they didn't have to explain death to a child, but something you have to learn, unfortunately. And I'm just really sorry again, it was your father. But like I said, I do believe there's something after death, and something about us remains. As Freemasons might say in Ontario, an eternal idea. And I'm sure that that idea, whatever it is, of your father is very proud of you. And I'm very grateful that you're here tonight. So thank you so much for being here. We have got, by the way, 41 votes. Mozart is in the lead at 37%, Ben Franklin 34%, Voltaire 20%, Diderot 10%. And to everybody watching this, by the way, if you want to support me in my efforts, go to patreon.com/square and compass. Patreon.com/square and compass. You can join for free, or you can become a member at a different tier levels. It helps me do this the goal of which is to explore the ways in which Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it is located. Something I really enjoy doing. Thank you, X. I try my best. I think a lot of times Freemasons probably are really really good at talking too. We kind of have to be especially if you're a worshipful master, to organize and run a lodge, you have to kind of be able to talk to people, take on different points of view, not, get upset if somebody has a different point of view than you or is trying to do something with which you don't agree. If somebody's going through a hard time, I talked to somebody from the Army for my podcast episode. He was a sergeant, and he said, look, yes, they're coming to the Army to do a job, but they may have financial troubles they're dealing with. They may have marital problems. They may have sickness, family sick. And I, as a leader, I can't just think about them as the soldier. I have to think about them as the person and know what they're going through. and be able to talk to them about that. And same with Freemasons. As a worshipful master, you have to not just think about the Mason, but also think about the man and what the man might be going through. And how can you talk to them about that and make sure they're still able to fulfill their Masonic obligations while also fulfilling obligations as, you know, husband, a father, work, whatever it might be. I am one subscriber away from 2,220 subs. So if you know, maybe we got one more. It'd be wonderful to get to that one. If not, I'll get to it tomorrow, I hope. But thank you everybody for joining. It's been wonderful to have you all here. I hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know how it's going and if there's anything else that you want to talk about. When I leave, streamers put their arms up as an X. That is pretty cool. Like this, like Degeneration X. Break it down. If you know what I was referencing there with Degeneration X, we can be friends. And by the way, if you're just joining us, I hope you'll take a moment to please hit the like button, the subscribe button. Let me know how it's going and anything else you want to talk about. I mean, I hope I can understand your pain as much as possible. I don't want to pretend like, you know, your pain and my pain. I think your pain is losing a father at 5 is, you know, very painful compared to, for example, when I lost my mom. Again, I lost her to cancer, but I was 40, so I got to know her, you know, for most of, you know, for that 40 years, which is pretty special and something I can take a lot of pride in. So there is that. You're an ex, so you must be tough as nails as well then to be a Marine. Again, nothing but credit and respect to you because I'm a big wuss and I'm not going to be able to, you know, I don't pretend to be tough. I'm not a tough guy. I'm a guy who likes to sleep. I like to, you know, I like sleeping and taking a nap. That is all I want to do. I don't want to get stabbed with anything, nails or otherwise. So good, you know, again, tough. You're a tough dude and a strong dude. Rondo, 28. You're saying you're 28 when you lost your mom. I'm very sorry about that. Again, you know, I feel like even 28 is very young. I mean, I suppose every age when you lose your mom, you're going to be very sad. But losing my mom at 40, again, 40 years with her, I really shouldn't be complaining. To get 40 years with my mom, right? That's pretty special. 28 would have been a lot harder in some ways, I think. So that's true as well. I mean, everybody struggles, right? Everybody has their struggles with different things. And hopefully you can find a way to kind of find support, maybe in a Masonic lodge. Who knows? Maybe you can find support in those lodges for going through some of those things. What is a Masonic lodge if not somewhere that can provide some type of emotional support? The struggles definitely help make us us, right? It's not just the struggles. I don't want to say that, but it's definitely the struggles as well. Swap nil. I hope you'll be so kind as to hit the like and subscribe button. I'm one like away from 30 likes and I'm one subscriber away from 2,220. I am from Windsor, Ontario. I was born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba, but I live in Windsor, Ontario since 2006 and I love it. I love Canada. I always say we are the greatest country in the world because we have the greatest neighbors in the world. In this case, America. But thank you everybody for joining. It's wonderful to have everybody. Let me know, by the way, who you voted for in your Enlightenment poll. Mozart is in the lead at 37. Ben Franklin got 34. Voltaire got 20%, and Diderot got 10%. Poor Diderot, never gets any love. I mean, some people, it's their nature. I've learned to try to not take that stuff too seriously. But yes, some people, it is their nature to complain. So it's unfortunate, but it happens. But I try to, sometimes it's better to be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right, if that makes any sense. I mean, doing things without expectations, honestly, I've found is one of the best ways to ensure happiness. When you set expectations, then you have attachments. It's like the Star Wars things, right? Becoming attached to things is the easy way. Becoming attached to an outcome or expecting an outcome and not getting it can lead you to be really upset. Um, as opposed to being, this is a Masonic idea, temperate or having temperance is a really valuable thing and can often help us from feeling that way. So, sometimes that's not a bad approach to take, Rondo. Sometimes, even if you're getting things wrong, but you just keep going, sometimes it can turn out in your favor. It's possible. That is true as well, X. I agree with that 100%. Thank you, everybody, for joining. It's been a great stream. Think I'm going to head to sleep now. I will be back on stream tomorrow, 1 p.m. Please don't forget patreon.com/square and compass. And yeah, thank you, everybody, for joining. I truly appreciate it. I hope everybody's going to have a great night. Thank you so much. And I will talk to everybody soon. And yeah, maybe that's a good place to end it. We don't quit because we're wrong. I don't quit because I'm wrong. I quit because I am tired, like right now. You are welcome, X. I'll throw up the sign, X. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. Find me tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, Todd, and wishing nothing but the best in Illinois, one of my favorite places in the world.